A-level economics paper 3 is always the trickiest, but you got this. With tips I introduce in this video and with some help with topic predictions, you will score the best mark. First thing first, topic mastery is key. This means that you are really confident with every single topic in both micro and macroeconomics, but as you finish your papers 1 and 2, you know which areas that you struggle with, so focus mostly on these topics to make sure you fill these knowledge gaps. In case there is a question in paper 3 that's just weirdly worded, you still know how to answer it because you are a king of the content. And as you finish your papers, you should clearly see the gaps. And when you focus on these, surely none of the questions will throw you off. The second important thing you can't forget is not to overthink your multiple choice questions. You are gonna get 30 MCQs, 15 from microeconomics and 15 from macroeconomics, but they are gonna be all mixed up. When you read the questions carefully and you pay attention to what really the question is asking you to do, then you should not struggle with finding the correct answer if you know the content, if you mastered everything in your syllabus. And don't get distracted by so-called distractor answers, because there is always going to be one answer that is similar to the correct one, but there is something wrong with it. So if I could recommend you some way how to tackle these MCQs and how to make sure you always get it right, firstly, eliminate 2 answers that are for sure wrong. You identify these by knowing that these are completely wrong. You just read them and you know, okay, this is for sure wrong. So you will end up with just 2 answers. One of them is the correct answer and the other one is the tricky, distracting answer that's somehow similar to the correct answer, but there is something wrong with it. What's really, really important is to make the most out of all the blank space on your MCQ sheets, which means you can annotate the questions, you can highlight it, you can draw small diagrams, just do anything that helps you get to the correct answer. Remember that your papers are going to be marked by computers, not by real people, not by your teachers, which means you can write anything on the paper, just make sure that you do the correct way of choosing the right answer. Do anything, literally anything that helps you get closer, do it. Because sometimes the questions are difficult to answer just from your head. You need to draw the diagram, do the shift, think about when you have exchange rate, what happens when pound weakens, etc, etc. There are these small things that really can get tricky if you try to do them from your head. You have the time for that, so draw something very quickly, think about definitions, highlight keywords, make sure that you understood the questions before you start choosing the answer. That's so important that you read it carefully, because when you misread the question, then you easily fall into the trap of seeing the so-called distractor and you choose that because you're, oh, this is correct. No, read it carefully, read it twice, read it 3 times, and then choose the correct answer. What is really, really important is that you stick to 25 minutes, which is the best time for multiple choice questions. Do not spend longer than 25 minutes on them, because you will lose valuable time which you can spend on your 10 markers or 15 markers or even 25 markers. Think carefully between the distractor and the correct answer, then choose the correct answer and move on. If there is a question you really struggle with, it's good to write something next to it that you are supposed to get back to it later, but do not get stuck on 1-point questions. There is no way you spend so much time on one small multiple choice question. And also another thing is that over time, as you go through a paper, the correct answer can come up. So as you engage with the economic thinking, sometimes you will get it later during your paper. Now I would like to offer you an estimate of how long should you spend on each section of your paper, and let this be your guide to how long should you spend on each section. Do not let yourself being stuck with something that's not that important. Stick to this schedule and you'll be absolutely fine. This is the guide I followed and I scored an A, so if you follow this, I'm sure you'll get an A too. As I said, leave 25 minutes for your 30 multiple choice questions. You should be alright with this time. 20 minutes on your 15 marker, 20 minutes on your 10 marker, and around 40 minutes on your 25 marker. I already talked about the exam technique for your MCQ, so let's now move on to the other parts of the paper. Okay, so 10 marker asks you to evaluate or analyze something, and what's very important, to come to a final judgment. So you will have there a diagram or the whole extract to guide your answers through. So you will find all information you need in these extracts. The general structure for 10 marker is firstly to define your key points. This refers to any general economic knowledge you have. You always start with the definitions. Of course, only if there are some, because sometimes the extract can be a little bit too outside of syllabus, but don't let that throw you off. It's absolutely fine. These definitions in 10 markers can sometimes help, sometimes don't. Depends on specific question. Then you need your 3 analysis paragraph, and think for each paragraph you write, you need your how, and you need your why, and you need your evaluation. You have to start with choosing a specific data point on your graph, in your diagram, whatever it is, whatever figure you have there, you need to use a specific data point from that figure. After identify these specific points, you need to say, how is this going to help you answer your question? And after that, you need to explain why. This is also followed by evaluation, which talks about some limitations of that specific data points, and it shows that you can think critically about the topic. It shows that you're a student who knows that in economics nothing remains stable and same, and every factor influences thousands other factors. So it's really crucial that you remember this to evaluate at the end of each of your paragraphs. Crucial element of your 10 marker is to include a final paragraph at the end. You start by answering the questions, so to what extent is the problem solved by your answer, and also weighing up different sides of your argument, because nothing is right or wrong. You have to show your argumentation, you have to show that you can reason your way through your answer, because the examiner would like to know why you think what you think. They want to see the steps behind your economic thinking, and by providing clearly data points, explaining how it is answer the questions and explaining why is this relevant, evaluating everything at the end with some potential limitations, you will show them that you understand your economic theory. You should weight up the most significant points of data in your final judgment and explain why they help you come to the conclusion you came to. So in your final judgment, start with answering the question, to what extent does the data provide answer to the question? Because no one says that the data you're going to be given is going to be perfect. It's going to be with flaws, and you are supposed to identify these flaws and explain why. You are supposed to weigh up the most significant data points and say how they helped you to come to your final judgment. You're trying to balance your judgment, so you can't really say that you can show everything with the data provided. You are supposed to say what you can do with the data and what else would you need to make a more well-rounded answer. So you can say there in your final judgment. For example, if the data is very old, you can't really say predictions to the future based on some very old data, right? Or if they're asking about your GDP per capita and you have just data about national income, you can't really make conclusions about an individual welfare. For your 15 markers, the structure is exactly the same as you're used to from your papers 1 and 2. Follow the same structure. Define key points, do 2 to 3 analysis paragraphs depending on how quickly can you write. If you think you will not manage to write 3 very well paragraphs in 20 minutes you have allocated to this 15 marker, then stick to 2 and make those 2 very, very well, rather than trying to do 3. Introduce a point, but do not go in enough depth. The depth of analysis is crucial for 15 markers, so if you want to score well, practice how to write detailed analysis. The chain of analysis, asking yourself, so what? What are you going to do when this happens on the diagram? You have to go deep and deep from the basic concept all the way up to your end point, your final shift, your final situation in the economy. You have to be able to reason your way back to the original one key definition point. Your keywords you define at the beginning should be just a way to start your answer. It shouldn't be something you should just write around and write fluff. No, you need to go deep and uncover the concepts. Going deep into each of the keywords and analyzing it as you go along scores you the highest marks. Do not get scared if there is a question that you don't know how to answer it immediately. And the reason for this is that paper 3 can be on anything. When you know your content, you will find out what the question is actually asking, but what's really, really important, and write it somewhere, you will get all the answers you need in your extract. So you just need to be able to pull the information out of the extract. When you mastered economics content, this should be easy, but every point you need to make is in those extracts. And what's really, really important, I keep saying something's really, really important, but this really is, do not read them all at the beginning. Go and find specific key information you need to answer specific questions. When you're doing 4 markers and you do some calculations, go straight to the figures. When you're doing 15 markers, which asks you about something from paragraph 3 or 4, do not read in detail 1 and 2. Time is precious in your exams and you want to make the most out of it. When it comes to the exam technique for your 25 marker, It's again something you are used to from your papers 1 and 2. And again, you are supposed to be guided by the extract. All the answers, all the points you need are there. So just read the question carefully, read the extract carefully, identify key points you can include in your essays, and start writing. What's important to these 25 markers in paper 3 is to incorporate both micro and macro points. This is the key the examiners are looking for in your 25 markers in your papers 3. So what you should do is, when you are practicing for your paper 3, every topic you have, every key question that can come up, identify both micro and macro points that are linked, then can go together when answering this type of questions. You can also add some extra marks by incorporating theory, because the extract is about some specific topic, and when you incorporate general theory, you show the examiners that you know your economic knowledge. Anything that's relevant, you can include it at the beginning of your paragraph, but don't forget to keep doing the analysis and not get stuck in the very, very artificial knowledge level. Go deep, analyze everything, and you will score the A-stars and A. When it comes to resources, I would like to recommend, it's definitely Tutor2U. They have amazing, amazing articles, quizzes, even newsletters. So every day at 7 o'clock, you will receive a newsletter with key articles about economic topics from all over the world. It's very, very useful to put some application in. This was more important for papers 1 and 2, but it's also relevant for any other economics exam when you can incorporate application. Tutor2U is amazing resource. Also, Econ Plus Dal is the king. So any topic you struggle with, he can explain to you everything with diagrams. It's perfect. I will link all of this in the description box, so check it out after finishing this video. Key takeaways from this video is definitely content mastery, knowing the structure of your paper in advance. So when you watch this video, I think you are almost ready. And what's really important, not to overthink your MCQs and spend just 25 minutes on them and then move on. Don't forget to let the extract drive your answers in both 15 and 25 markers. I watched one really good video last year when I was preparing for my A-levels with predicted topics for 2023. So I'll put them on the screen right now. Feel free to take screenshots and compare it with the topics that actually came up for our exams last year. And if they came up, they probably won't come up this year, but if they didn't, there is high chance that they will feature in this year's paper 3. This is just for you to have an idea what to expect in your paper, but as I said, content mastery is the key, and you can't really predict topics for paper 3. When you are ready for everything, you'll do well anyway. So I'm not really sure I like these predictions, because that it can throw you off if you predict the topic and it doesn't come up. When you prepare, when you are ready, then you'll be fine whatever comes up. That's it for today's video. I hope you liked it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, and I'll be looking forward to seeing you next time. Bye.